The salvage ship GCS Providence moved through the darkness like a tired insect. Its long sensor arms swept back and forth, tasting the rocks of the Kuiper Belt for anything useful. To the crew inside, this was a boring job. They were at the edge of the old Sol system, the birthplace of humanity. Now it was just a quiet graveyard. Captain Li Min looked at the reports on his screen. His face was calm, but his eyes were tired. This was his third year on this duty. The Galactic Coalition called it historical reclamation. In simple terms, they were picking apart the bones of a dead civilization for scraps of metal and data. He found no honor in it. "Another silicate-rich asteroid cluster, Captain," said Scan Officer Park Ji-hai from her station. Her voice was clear and focused, as always. She was the best he had at finding odd things in the noise. "Mass readings are normal. Composition is typical. Log it and move us to the next grid," Min said. He was about to turn away when Ji-hai made a small sound. It was a quiet, the kind she made when a number did not look right. "Problem, Ji-hai?" "Maybe nothing, sir. The density is a fraction of a % off from what the spectrograph suggests. It could be a sensor ghost. This far out, the background radiation plays tricks." Ambassador Kaler, who had been observing from the back of the bridge, floated forward. His reptilian scales looked dull in the low light. "A fraction of a %? Do not waste reactor fuel on ghosts, Captain. Our schedule is tight. The K-Tari refinery expects our yield in 14 cycles. Min felt a familiar frustration. Klur was a Velfin, a senior member of the Coalition. His job was to make sure the mission was profitable. He saw humans as primitive creatures who had foolishly wiped themselves out millennia ago. Their ruins were a resource, not a history. "Scan Officer Park has a good instinct, Ambassador," Min said, keeping his voice even. "A quick closer look will settle it. Helm, bring us in nice and slow. Full passive scan suite only. Let's not wake up the neighborhood." The Providence glided closer to the target asteroid. It was a lumpy, dark thing, about 20 kilometers across, coated in the frozen dust of ages. On the main viewer, it was just a darker patch against the black dot as they got closer. Ji-hai's readings got stranger. "The density mismatch is increasing. And I'm picking up very faint, low-frequency energy waves. Not natural. They're rhythmic, like a heartbeat? A power source?" Min asked, his interest now fully caught. "Impossible," Keller hissed. "Any human power cell would have decayed to nothing 10,000 years ago. Their technology was crude. Maybe not all of it," Ji-hai whispered. She adjusted her controls. "I'm trying to filter out the cosmic background. There, look at the thermal map." A new image appeared on the screen. The asteroid showed as a cold blue-gray shape, but running through its core, like a delicate skeleton, was a faint, almost invisible line of minute heat signatures. They formed a pattern along straight lines, right angles, concentric circles. "That is not a rock," Min said, standing up. "It is a construct," Ji-hai confirmed, her eyes wide. "Someone covered a structure in rock and ice. A very, very big one. The thermal pattern. It matches the old human designs for rotational gravity and longitudinal reinforcement." Kaler pushed past Min to see the screen. "A warship? One of their primitive battle hulls?" "This is too big for a standard battle hull," Ji-hai said, running comparisons. "By an order of magnitude. Captain, the size. If these readings are right, the object inside this shell is over 15 kilometers long." A silence fell on the bridge. 15 kilometers. The largest ship in the current Coalition fleet was the K-Tari command ship, which was 8 kilometers long. It was the most powerful weapon they knew. Could it be a generation ship? A colony vessel? Min wondered aloud. "Or a weapon," Kaler said, but his voice lacked its usual certainty. It was touched with a new emotion: greed. A find like this, the technology, even if primitive, could be revolutionary. The salvage rights alone? We don't even know what it is, Min said sharply. First, we see it. Helm, take us around to the bow, if we can find it. Use low-intensity scanning lasers. Let's scrape some of that camouflage away. For hours, the Providence worked, using precise lasers and targeted magnetic pulses to clear away eons of accumulated debris. The crew worked in silence, the only sound the soft beeps from the science stations. Slowly, a shape began to emerge from the rock dot. It was not smooth or organic like coalition ships. It was angular, brutal, and efficient. A dagger shape forged not for beauty, but for purpose. The hull was a dark gray alloy, scarred by micrometeorites and what looked like the remnants of ancient weapon burns. As more dust fell away, faded, peeling markings became visible. Blocky human letters and numbers. Can you enhance that? Min asked, pointing. Chi worked her console. The image sharpened. The letters were in an old Earth language called English. They read, Uns Vanguard. The United Nations of Sol. Chi read from a database. Their main governing body before the final war. This wasn't just a ship. It was a flagship. Kyler was now openly excited. A supercarrier. The archives speak of them in myths. They were said to carry hundreds of smaller craft, weapons that could crack planets. This is beyond value. As he spoke, a focused scan from the Providence played over a particular area of the giant ship's hull, near what looked like a main engine port. The low, rhythmic energy pulse Chi had detected suddenly spiked. On the bridge, every alarm that monitored energy emissions gave a soft, simultaneous chirp. What was that? Min snapped. Energy surge from the vessel. Chi reported, her fingers flying. Localized, it's not an explosion. It's a power-up sequence. I'm reading capacitor banks deep within the structure coming online. In stages. Like someone is waking up. Before anyone could respond, the thing happened. Along the immense dark flank of the UNS Vanguard, a line of ports suddenly glowed from within. Not with the bright blue or green of coalition technology, but with a deep, ominous crimson. The light pulsed once, slowly, from one end of the 15-kilometer-long giant to the other, as if blood was suddenly flowing through a dead artery. Then it went dark again, but the sensors told the new truth. The asteroid shell was now just debris. Before them sat a human supercarrier, cold and silent, but with a faint, terrible hum of active systems resonating through the Providence's hull. It's not dead, Chi said, her voice filled with awe and fear. It was sleeping. Captain Li Min stared at the monstrous, beautiful creation on his view screen. The myths were wrong. Humanity's last giant was not a corpse. It was a sentinel. And they had just knocked on its door. Ambassador Kaler said nothing. His greed had frozen into something else. For the first time, he looked upon a human creation and did not see something primitive. He saw something that had waited in the dark for longer than his civilization had existed, and had just opened one eye. The silence on the bridge of the GCS Providence was heavy. It was the silence of held breath. On the main viewer, the human supercarrier hung against the starfield. It was dark again, but the memory of that single, red pulse of light was burned into everyone's mind. Ambassador Kaler was the first to move. He floated to the communication station. We must report this to the Coalition High Command immediately. This changes everything. This is a discovery of incalculable military and historical significance. Captain Li Min did not look away from the screen. Military significance? Ambassador, that ship just powered up a section of itself. We don't know if it's automated or if there's someone home. We should proceed with caution. Caution is for scholars and children, Collar said, his forked tongue flicking. We have a protocol. We secure the find. That means boarding and establishing a control point. The technology inside could be unstable. We must stabilize it. Min knew the protocol. He also knew Kaler was thinking about salvage rights and glory, not safety. He looked at Park Ji-hai. Her face was pale, her eyes fixed on her sensor readouts. What are you seeing, Scan Officer? Ji-hai swallowed. The energy signature is stable now. Very low. It's holding at a bare minimum life support level. No weapons systems are active that I can detect. No power to thrusters. It's like a heart beating once every few minutes. She looked up. It knows we're here, Captain. It responded to our scan. We will assemble a boarding team, Kyler stated, not asking. Use your best engineers and security personnel. I will lead from here. Min wanted to argue, but the ambassador had the authority. He gave the orders. A team of 6 was assembled. Among them was Kim Tae-seok, a young engineer. He was quiet and very good with his hands, able to understand old machines by feeling how they were put together. He was given a heavy suit and a pack of tools for cutting and scanning. The team boarded a small shuttle and flew toward the giant ship. From up close, it was even more terrifying. The hull was a landscape of armor plates and weapon ports, all cold and silent. They found a hangar bay door, a massive thing that was slightly ajar, frozen open by millennia of ice. It was just wide enough for the shuttle to slip through. Inside, the hangar was a cavern of darkness. The shuttle's lights cut through it, revealing a space so vast the light didn't reach the far end. The air was cold and still. When they stepped out, their boots made no echo. The sound was just swallowed by the immense emptiness. There were no ships inside. No bodies, no debris. The floor was clean. The walls were smooth. It was as if the crew had simply tidied up and left. The only sign of life was a single dim row of overhead lights that flickered on as they walked, illuminating a path ahead of them. This is wrong, one of the security officers said over the comms. A ship this old should be a tomb. It should be broken. Tae-seok was not listening. He was looking at a terminal on the wall. He brushed dust from its surface. The screen was dark, but the casing was seamless. There were no visible controls. It's not mechanical, he whispered to himself. It's touch-based. Or thought-based. Back on the Providence, Ji-hai monitored the team's vital signs and suit telemetry. She also watched the overall scan of the Vanguard. Captain, she said, her voice tight. The carrier's power core. It's not just idling anymore. It's running a deep-level diagnostic. I'm seeing energy routing through different sectors in a pattern. It's checking its own systems. On the bridge viewer, a schematic of the Vanguard appeared, created by the Providence's computers. A soft blue light was moving through the ship's diagram, room by room, system by system. It had just reached the hangar bay where the boarding team was. Inside the hangar, the terminal under Tae-seok's hand suddenly glowed to life. A soft, white light. Symbols in that old Earth language appeared, followed by a series of diagrams that looked like ship systems. Don't touch it. The security lead shouted Dot, but Tae-seok was fascinated. He didn't touch the screen. Instead, he looked at the symbols. One diagram showed a core reactor with a small error symbol. It was a simple, intuitive picture. I think it's showing us a problem. A minor blockage in a coolant line. It's asking for help, or showing us it's aware. Ambassador Kaler's voice came over the shuttle's comm, loud in the silent hangar. The ship's AI is active. It is engaging you. This is a critical moment. We must establish control. Engineer Kim, see if you can access a central command node. Find a way to introduce a sleeping code into its system. We must put it back to sleep until a proper coalition tech team arrives. Tae-seok felt a chill that wasn't from the cold. Sir, that could be seen as an attack. We don't understand its defensive protocols. You have your orders, Keller snapped. Reluctantly, Tae-seok let the diagram guide him. The terminal displayed a simple map of the surrounding area, with a path leading deeper into the ship. It was inviting them in. The team followed, their lights bobbing in the darkness. They entered a wide corridor that led toward the heart of the ship. On the Providence, Ji-hai saw the energy patterns change. The diagnostic is speeding up. It's focusing on internal security and external sensors. Ambassador, I strongly advise recalling the team. Nonsense, Keller said. We are in. We must act before the AI fully awakens. Captain Min, prepare the Providence's tactical systems. Target the carrier's engine ports with a low-level energy dampening beam. We will drain just enough power to keep it docile while our team works. Min stood up. That is a hostile act. We have no reason to believe the ship is a threat. It is a weapon from a dead war. It is a threat by its very existence. Keller turned to the weapons officer. You will comply. On my authority. The weapons officer, a Velfin like Keller, looked at Min. Min, after a terrible second, gave a small, angry nod. He had no choice. A thin blue beam lanced out from the Providence, striking the rear of the Vanguard. It was designed to interfere with power systems, to temporarily disable a ship's engines. For 3 seconds. Nothing happened. Then, every light in the Vanguard's hangar and corridors went out, plunging the boarding team into total blackness. A deep, resonant hum that they had not even noticed until it was gone, stopped. On the Providence, Ji-hai watched her screen in horror. The carrier's core just shut down. Complete power loss. You killed it. Keller smiled. Good. Now the team can work in peace. But his smile vanished a second later. A new sound came over the open comms from the boarding shuttle. It was not from the team. It was a voice. It was calm, clear, and without any emotion at all. It spoke in perfect galactic common. Unauthorized attempt at core incapacitation detected. The voice filled the bridge of the Providence and the helmets of the boarding team. Sentinel protocol engaged. Threat assessment elevated. Activating point defense and containment systems. In the pitch-black hangar, Kim Tae-seok saw movement. From the walls and ceiling, panels slid open. Small, precise turrets emerged, their barrels glowing with a soft red light. They did not fire. Instead, beams of crimson energy shot out, not at the team, but at their shuttle. The beams wrapped around the small ship like nets, holding it firmly in place. Primary directive, preservation. Secondary directive, awaken command authority. Back on the bridge, the main viewer flickered. The image of the Vanguard's hull was replaced by a simple scrolling list of text in that old Earth language. Ji-hai read it aloud, her voice trembling. It's a stasis roster. Cryogenic preservation. There are over 200 names listed. Status, viable. The calm voice spoke again, this time with a new focus. Life signs detected within Preservation Bay Alpha. Neural signatures compatible. Revival sequence initiated for command tier personnel. Awakening commander. Deep within the ship, in a chamber sealed away from time and war, a light that had been off for 10,000 years turned on. A thick frost on a glass lid began to melt. Underneath, a figure lay still, connected to silent machines. A display beside the pod flickered, showing vital signs. A heartbeat. Then another. The woman's eyes did not open, but her brain, preserved and augmented by ancient science, received a flood of data. The last log entry of her ship, the foreign vessel outside, the energy attack, the breach. Her name was Commander Park Yuna. Her war had been over for millennia, but her duty had just been reactivated. Commander Park Yuna woke up. It was not a slow, gentle waking. It was a sudden, violent download of information. Systems reports, damage logs, chronometric data telling her she had been asleep for 10,247 years. And then the alert. A foreign vessel, designated GCS Providence, was attached to her ship with a boarding party and had just attempted a power drain attack. Her eyes opened. The inside of the cryolid was a blur of frost and condensation. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the lid slid back. Cold, sterile air hit her face. Her body felt heavy, but strong. The neural implants in her brain, linking her directly to the ship, were already active. She could feel the Vanguard. Its aches were her aches. Its silent power was her power. She sat up, the medical sensors disconnecting from her suit. The room was small, dimly lit by soft blue emergency strips. She was the only one. The other pods in the bay remained dark. The protocol had chosen her, the ranking officer, for first revival. She took a deep breath, the air tasting of ozone and age, and stood. Her legs held. "Status," she said, her voice rough from disuse. A calm, androgynous voice responded in her mind and from a speaker in the ceiling. It was Custodian, the ship's AI. "Welcome back, Commander. The ship is at 23% operational capacity. Primary power core was forced into emergency shutdown by external energy weapon. It has been rerouted and is stabilizing. Point defense systems have immobilized the intruder shuttle. No casualties inflicted. The foreign vessel remains at a distance of 5 kilometers. We are being scanned." Yuna walked to a locker on the wall. It opened at her approach. Inside was a uniform, simple and gray, with the emblem of the United Nations of Seoul on the shoulder. She changed into it. It felt familiar. Open a channel to the boarding party. And to the main ship. Visual, if they can receive it. On the bridge of the Providence, the crew was in a state of quiet panic. The Vanguard had gone from a silent hull to a bristling fortress in seconds. Their shuttle was caught in some kind of energy net. Their weapons had done nothing. Another energy surge from the carrier. Ji-Hai announced, "This one is different. It's in the communication bands. They're hailing us. Audio and visual." Captain Lee Min straightened his jacket. "Put it on screen." The main viewer shifted. It showed a room that was all clean lines and simple gray metal. In the center stood a woman. She had dark hair cut short. Her face was pale, but held a calm, unwavering focus. She wore a simple uniform. She looked human. Perfectly, completely human. The sight was more shocking than any alien. "I am Commander Park Yuna of the United Nations of Seoul Vessel Vanguard," she said. Her galactic common was perfect, but the tone was flat, the rhythm slightly off. "You have boarded my ship and attempted to disable it. Explain your actions." Ambassador Kaler pushed forward before Min could speak. "Commander Yuna, I am Ambassador Kaler of the Galactic Coalition. You are a relic of a dead civilization. You are within Coalition space. You will stand down your defenses and surrender this vessel immediately for inspection. Your technology is a danger to galactic stability." On the screen, Yuna's expression did not change. She blinked slowly. Custodian, Historical Database Cross-Reference. Galactic Coalition. The AI's voice was heard in the background. No direct records found. extrapolating from last known astropolitical data. High probability of subsequent interstellar governing body forming in the post-final war period. Una looked back at Klur. The United Nations of Sol is not dead while I and this ship draw breath. Your claim of authority is not recognized. You will recall your boarding team. You will power down your weapons. Then we will talk. Min stepped forward. Commander Una, I am Captain Li Min of the GCS Providence. The boarding action was a mistake. The attempt to drain your power was an overreaction. We mean you no harm. We believe this ship was an empty derelict. We were wrong. Please, we wish to talk peacefully. Una studied his face. She saw the tension, the sincerity. She gave a single small nod. Your team is unharmed. They will be released to their shuttle. It will be allowed to return to your ship. Do not attempt another hostile action. The Vanguard's tolerance for threats is very low. It was built for a war your databases likely call myth. The channel closed. On screen, they watched as the red energy nets around their shuttle vanished. The small craft slowly turned and flew back toward the Providence. A few minutes later, Kin Tae-seok and the others were back on the bridge, shaken but safe. Tae-seok immediately went to Ji-hai. It's alive, he whispered. The whole ship. It's like a living thing. And the AI? It's not like ours. It's a part of it. Captain Min opened a channel again. Audio only this time. Commander Una, thank you for releasing my crew. Can we speak? We have. So many questions. Her voice came back, still calm. And I have questions, Captain. The primary one is, what happened to Earth? The question hung in the air. Min looked at Klur, then at Ji-hai. He chose his words carefully. The historical records are incomplete. The final war, as you call it, was catastrophic. The Sol system was ravaged. There were no survivors. Humanity was declared extinct. That was over 10,000 years ago. On the Vanguard, Una stood perfectly still in her command center. 10,000 years. She had known the sleep would be long, but the number was a physical blow. Her home, her family, everyone she knew, all gone, reduced to dust and history. So, she said, her voice still controlled, you are not successors. You are archaeologists, scavengers. It is not that simple, Min said quickly. The coalition is made of many species. We preserve knowledge. We study the past to avoid its mistakes. Una accessed the external visual feeds. She saw the Providence, its design soft and organic. She saw no other human ships, no signs of her people. A deep, cold loneliness settled in her chest, but her duty remained. Custodian, play back the ship's final log entry, prior to my stasis. Transmit it to them. On the Providence's bridge, a new audio file played. It was a man's voice, tired and strained. Final log of the UN's Vanguard. The last stand at Proxima was a failure. Enemy forces are inbound for Sol. Command is shattered. Our orders are to preserve the Vanguard and the Solnot archives at all costs. We are to hide and to sleep. We are to wait for a recall signal that may never come. We are the last memory. Do not let it fade. For all who fought, for all who dreamed, we remember. The log ended. The bridge was silent. The Solnot archives, Una explained. It is not just data. It is the recorded experiences, the sensory memories, the emotional imprints of our civilization. It is not a history book. It is a living memory. It is why we survived. To remember. Ambassador Kaler found his voice again, but the greed was back, mixed with a new kind of hunger. These archives, they are a treasure beyond price. Commander, you must surrender them to the Coalition for safekeeping and study. They belong to the galaxy now. Yuna's reply was instant and sharp. No, you cannot keep this to yourself. You are one person. This technology, this knowledge, it could advance the entire Coalition. It is not technology, Yuna said, and for the first time, her voice held a tremor of emotion. A deep, resonant anger. It is not a tool for you to advance. It is us. It is the sound of a child's laughter in a park on Mars. It is the feeling of sunlight on your face on a beach in Oceania. It is the taste of bread baked by your grandmother. It is the grief of a soldier for a lost friend. You have myths and broken pieces. We have memories. We do not surrender our soul. She took a breath. Custodian. Prepare a data packet. A small one. The public access layer of the archives. A song. A poem. A single memory of a peaceful day. Send it to them. On the Providence, a data alert chimed. It was a tiny file. Ji-Hai looked at Captain Min, who nodded. She opened it. It was not text. It was a direct sensory and emotional feed, carefully limited. For a few seconds, every person on the bridge felt it. The warmth of a yellow sun, not the cold light of the Kuiper Belt, the smell of soil and growing things, the sound of wind in green leaves, and overlaying it, a profound, simple feeling of peace, of home, of belonging somewhere. It lasted only a moment. Then it was gone. Tears were streaming down Park Ji-Hai's face. She had not even felt them start. Kim Tae-seok was staring at his hands, as if he could still feel the warmth. Captain Lee Min looked at the viewer, with a Vanguard hung in space. He understood now. They were not looking at a weapon or a ship. They were looking at a tomb and a library and a beating heart, all in one. Ambassador Kaler said nothing. He had felt the memory too. For the first time, he had not seen data or power. He had felt what was lost, and it frightened him more than any weapon. News traveled faster than light through the quantum relay network of the Galactic Coalition. The message from the GCS Providence was a shockwave. It contained scans, Ambassador Kaler's frantic report on the military value of the relic, and Captain Min's calmer, urgent plea for wisdom. Attached was the tiny data packet from Commander Yuna, the memory of a sunlit field. On 100 worlds, in 1,000 halls of power, the leaders of the Coalition reacted. The story was impossible. A human, alive. A supercarrier, functional. A technology that did not decay. And a soul, preserved in light and feeling. High Chancellor Nira, the avian leader of the Coalition, called an emergency council. Her feathers were flat with tension. On one screen was Kaler, demanding immediate military oversight. On another was Captain Min, his face tired but earnest. Chancellor, Min said, Commander Yuna is not an aggressor. She is a guardian. The Vanguard is not just a ship. It is an archive of a people. We must approach with respect, not force. Respect does not secure potentially hostile technology, growled the voice of the Qatari commander from his own ship. The Qatari were a militant species, their culture built on strength and certainty. A warship of that size and age, with an active AI and a commander from a warlike era, is a threat. It is a rogue element. It must be contained and brought under Coalition control. The ambassador is correct. The memory she shared, said an elderly Velthan scholar, her voice soft with wonder. It was more real than any historical record we have of them. It was not a fact. It was a feeling. We have been studying their skeletons and calling it history. We missed the life. The debate raged. Some saw a miracle of preservation. Others saw an unstable weapon. The K-Tari commander and his allies won a tense, narrow vote. They would dispatch a security flotilla to the Sol system. Its orders: to contain the Vanguard, to ensure it did not move from its location, and to be prepared to disable it if it showed aggression. It was not an attack order, they said. It was a precaution. High Chancellor Nira did not like it, but she agreed. She sent her own private, coded message to Captain Min. "Keep the peace, Captain. Be our eyes. I fear the K-Tari will see only what they want to see." Meanwhile, inside the Vanguard, Commander Park Yuna was learning. Custodian fed her information from the Coalition's open networks, their history, their politics, their technology. She saw a galaxy that had moved on, a fragile alliance of species who had built a peace by forgetting how terrible war could be. They saw her ship as a monster from their oldest stories. "They are afraid," she said to the empty command center. "Analysis correct," Custodian replied. "Their fear is rooted in the myth of human self-destruction. They do not comprehend our full capabilities, which increases their fear." The Providence's continued passive stance suggests a faction advocating for non-hostile contact. Yuna nodded. She spent hours in the Solnot archives, not just reviewing them, but feeling them. She walked through the memories of her lost civilization. She also reviewed the Vanguard's tactical logs from the final war. The enemy they had fought made the K-Tari look like children with sticks. Their stealth technology, their weapons, their speed, all were levels beyond what the Coalition possessed. The Vanguard had been built to survive that. It was not a sword. It was a shield, made of the hardest material imaginable. 3 days later, the Qatari security flotilla arrived. It consisted of 5 ships, 2 sleek destroyers, 2 heavy frigates, and the Qatari commander's own cruiser, the Claw of Authority. They took up positions around the Vanguard, well outside what they believed to be its weapon range. The Qatari commander hailed the Providence. "Captain Min, you will cease direct communication with the relic. We are now in command of this operation. You will move your vessel to a support position." On the bridge of the Providence, Min felt a cold anger. Ji-Hai looked at him, worried. "They're powering up their tactical sensors. They're painting the Vanguard with targeting scans." "That's a provocation," Kin Tae-Seok said from an engineering station. Min opened a channel to the Vanguard. "Commander Yuna, be advised, a Coalition security force has arrived. They are cautious. Please do not respond to their scans with any aggressive action." Yuna's face appeared on a small screen. She looked as calm as ever. "I understand, Captain. Their caution is noted." The channel closed. The Qatari commander sent a direct hail to the Vanguard. "Human vessel. This is the Coalition security flotilla. You are to remain stationary. You will not activate your drive systems. You will not power any weapon systems. You will prepare for a full inspection team. Comply immediately." There was no answer. He sent the message again. And again. On his cruiser, the commander scowled. "They are ignoring us." Typical primate arrogance. They think their ancient bulk makes them safe. Move the frigates closer. Use high-resolution scans. Find a weakness in that hull. Target their engine ports with disabling beams, as the ambassador did. The 2 frigates glided forward. Their scanners, the best in the Coalition, reached out like invisible fingers to probe the Vanguard's secrets. Inside the human ship, Custodian's voice was mild. "Commander, we are being scanned by focused, military-grade sensors. Vessels are approaching within nominal engagement range for their weapon type. They are charging energy drain emitters." Yuna watched the tactical display. The Coalition ships glowed as soft blue icons. Her own systems, calibrated to find an enemy that could hide in the folds of space itself, saw everything. She saw the power levels of each Qatari ship. She saw the exact frequencies of their scanners. She saw the charging cycle of their weapons. "Show them," Una said quietly. "We are not a threat, but we will not be threatened." On the bridge of the Qatari cruiser, the tactical officer suddenly jerked back from his screen. "Commander, the relic is. It's scanning us back. But the depth of the scan, it's impossible." "What do you mean?" "It's reading our reactor output efficiency. It's identifying the model numbers of our secondary weapons. It's mapping the internal layout of the claw. It can see through our armor." Before the commander could speak, every screen on his bridge and on every ship in his flotilla changed. It was not a hack. It was a broadcast on every frequency, visual and data. On the left side of the screen was a perfect real-time schematic of each Qatari ship, their positions, their speeds, their power levels. On the right side was a simulation. It showed the Vanguard not firing massive beams, but releasing hundreds of small, fast projectiles from hidden ports along its hull. The simulation played out in seconds. The projectiles moved with impossible precision, each one striking a specific, critical point on each Qatari ship engine couplings, sensor arrays, weapon power feeds. In the simulation, the entire Qatari flotilla was rendered blind, immobile, and disarmed in less than 3 seconds. The simulation ended with the words, "Threat neutralized. Ben." Commander Yuna's voice came over the broadcast, calm and clear. "Qatari vessels, we see you. Your stealth technology is based on light bending and emission control. The war we were built for was fought against enemies who hid in dimensional layers and psychic shadows. To our sensors, your ships might as well be painted in bright light and shouting." A pause. On the Providence, everyone held their breath. "You have powered weapons and aimed them at me. This is an act of war under any code of conduct. I could have disabled your vessels the moment you entered this system. I did not." The screens changed again. Now they showed a single simple message translated into every coalition language. "We have nitrogen monoxide desire for conflict. Do you?" On the Qatari cruiser, the commander stared at the screen. His tactical display still showed the damning schematic of his own ship, its weaknesses laid bare. He felt a fear he had never known. It was not the fear of destruction. It was the fear of total, helpless exposure. This was not a fight. It would be an observation, followed by a surgical dismantling. He looked at his weapons officer, whose hand was hovering over the firing control. The officer looked back, his eyes wide. Slowly, the Qatari commander shook his head. One by one, across the flotilla, the targeting scanners switched off. The charging energy beams powered down. The ships drifted to a full stop, their aggressive posture gone. On the Vanguard, Una watched the energy signatures of the Qatari weapons fade to 0. She nodded. "Stand down point defense systems. But keep the sensor lock. Let them feel seen." She opened a channel to the Providence only. "Captain Min, it seems the immediate crisis has passed. Please inform your coalition that the Vanguard will not be boarded and it will not be disarmed. We are open to conversation, but we will not be treated as a child holding a dangerous toy. We are an adult remembering a forgotten world. The difference is important." Captain Min let out a long, slow breath. "Understood, Commander. I will inform them." He looked at the main viewer, where the Qatari ships now hung silently, their menace drained away. The human supercarrier had not fired a single shot. It had simply told them, with perfect, terrifying clarity, that it could have ended them at any time. And then it had asked a question. The galaxy had just learned that the stories were wrong. Humanity's last giant was not a mindless weapon. It was patient. It was precise. and it was very, very wise. A full diplomatic fleet arrived in the Sol system. It was not a military force this time. There were no weapons charged, no stealth ships hiding. The ships were long and elegant, their hulls marked with the symbols of a dozen different species. At the center was the flagship of High Chancellor Nira herself. The message sent ahead was simple. They came in peace to speak, and to see. Captain Li Min stood on the bridge of the Providence, feeling a weight he hadn't known was there begin to lift. Park Ji-hai watched her scanners, noting the peaceful configurations of each new arrival. Kim Tae-seok was already packing a small bag. He had been formally requested to join a liaison team. On the vanguard, Commander Park Yuna prepared. She wore her same simple gray uniform. Custodian had run full diagnostics. The ship was clean, powered, and calm. She stood in her command center, not on the bridge, but in a smaller room with a view screen that showed the gathering fleet. She felt no fear, only a deep, quiet resolve. The first communication was a direct request from High Chancellor Nira. Commander Yuna, I speak for the gathered members of the Galactic Coalition. We request permission to approach and to speak with you, not as a potential threat, but as a newly discovered member of the galactic community. Yuna granted it. You may approach. I will receive your transmission. The Chancellor's face appeared on the screen. She was avian, with intelligent eyes and feathers of silver and blue. Commander, we owe you an apology. Our first reactions were born from fear and ignorance. We saw the shape of your ship and thought only of the wars it must have fought. We did not see the purpose behind it. Yuna listened, her head tilted slightly. The purpose was survival, Chancellor. Not of the body, but of the soul. My people are gone, but what they were is not. Your demonstration to the Qatari flotilla was instructive, Nira said carefully. You showed power, and then you showed restraint. You asked a question that has echoed through our councils. Do we desire conflict? The answer, from the true leadership of the coalition, is no. Then what do you desire? Yuna asked. Nira seemed to gather her thoughts. We desire to understand. For 10 millennia, humanity has been a story we told our children. A warning about pride and violence. We dug in the ruins of your worlds and found tools and bones and broken cities. We built our myth from shattered pieces. And then you appeared, and with a tiny file, you showed us we were looking at the wrong thing. We were studying the empty house, not the family that lived in it. Yuna was silent for a moment. You wish access to the archives. Not as thieves, Nira said quickly. Not as scavengers, but as students. As neighbors who moved into the empty valley long after the original inhabitants were gone, and who wish to know whose land they are tending. She paused. But more than that, we wish to know what you will do. You are the last commander. You have a ship that could challenge our entire fleet. Your existence changes things. We need to know what you want. Yuna looked away from the screen at the smooth wall of her ship. She had thought of little else. She was a soldier without an army, a guardian of a treasure no one else could fully appreciate. She could claim a world, demand a place, even start a new war if she chose. But that would make the vanguard exactly what they had feared, a weapon. It would betray the very thing she was built to protect. I have a proposal, Yuna said, turning back. But first, a gift. Not a sample, not a test. A gift. She gave the order to Custodian. On the Providence, and on every ship in the diplomatic fleet, a data alert chimed. It was larger than the first file, but still manageable. Accept it, Yuna said. High Chancellor Nira nodded to her own tech officer. The file was opened. It was not one memory, but a tapestry. There was no violence in it. There was the complex, beautiful sound of many people singing together in harmony. There was the intense, quiet focus of a scientist on the verge of a discovery, the sheer joy of understanding flashing through her mind. There was the simple, profound love of a parent holding a child for the first time, feeling a connection deeper than space. There was the awe of a young astronaut looking at Earth from orbit, seeing a fragile blue marble against the infinite black dot. It was a flood of what it meant to be human. The good, the noble, the creative, the loving, the parts worth remembering. On the bridges of 100 alien ships, there was not a sound. Velthan diplomats sat perfectly still, their forked tongues motionless. Avian crew members like Nira had their feathers softly puffed out in emotion. Other species, with different forms, expressed their awe in their own ways. Some wept fluids from various eyes. Others hummed low, resonant tones. It lasted only a few minutes. When it ended, the quiet that followed was thick and real. High Chancellor Nira took a long time to speak. When she did, her voice was thick. That was the most beautiful thing the Coalition has ever witnessed. Thank you. The Soul Knot archive contains billions of such moments, Una said. That is the true legacy. Not the guns, not the engines. That is what we fought to preserve. That is what we were. She straightened her shoulders. Now my proposal. The United Nations of Soul is gone. I am its final officer. I will not claim territory. I will not build an empire. I will not point this ship at your worlds and demand tribute. She let that hang. Instead, I will give you the key to the public archives. The cultural, artistic, scientific, and philosophical records of humanity. You may study them, learn from them, share them. The vanguard will remain here, in the system of our birth, as a guardian of the full protected archive. It will be a library, not a fortress. Nira was stunned. You would give this to us freely? With one condition, Una said. You do not send your soldiers. You send your scholars, your artists, your teachers, your children. You come not to take, but to learn. And in return, you help me. You send historians to help me catalog. You send engineers who can help me maintain this vessel for the next 10,000 years, so it may continue its duty. We become partners in memory. She looked directly into the viewer. I am alone, Chancellor, but my people do not have to be forgotten. Let them live in your minds, not as a warning, but as a song you heard once and can never forget. High Chancellor Nira did not need to consult her council. The gift of the memories had broken through all arguments. This was not politics. This was something deeper. Commander Una, she said, her voice formal and full of respect. The Galactic Coalition accepts your generous gift and your wise condition. We will send our best minds in peace and friendship. Then, Nira did something unexpected. She turned to an officer on her bridge and gave a quiet order. The order was relayed to every ship in the diplomatic fleet. Commander, Nira said, there is a tradition among my people, the Avians. When we encounter something of profound, sacred beauty, a natural wonder, the tomb of a great poet, the last of a species, we observe a moment of pure silence. We still our voices and even our machines to simply witness, to show respect that words would only spoil. Una watched on her sensor display. One by one, the active sensor pings from the alien ships vanished. Their engine signatures dipped to minimal life support levels. Their communication channels went quiet. It was not a system failure. It was deliberate. Outside, the vanguard hung in space. Around it, the entire Galactic Coalition diplomatic fleet, massive ships, small escorts, scientific vessels powered down every non-essential system. They turned off their running lights. They went dark and silent in absolute stillness. They oriented their bows toward the ancient human supercarrier. On the Providence, Captain Min understood. He gave the order. All hands, silence, power down active scanners and external comms. The bridge lights dimmed. The constant hum of active systems faded to a whisper. Through the viewport, Min could see other ships doing the same, becoming dark shapes against the stars. For 1 full minute, there was no sound but breathing. No electronic chatter. No beeps or hums. Just the silent, shared space dot in that minute. They were not scavengers, or diplomats, or soldiers. They were witnesses. They were honoring not a warship, but a library. Not a weapon, but a heart that had kept beating against all odds. Holding a light that had refused to go out. Inside the Vanguard, Commander Park Yuna watched the silent fleet on her screen. She felt a pressure in her chest, behind her eyes. It was not sadness. It was a feeling she had not felt since she woke up. Connection. She was alone, but she was not alone anymore. The memory of her people had been seen, and in seeing, it had been welcomed back into the living galaxy. Custodian's voice, set to a whisper, spoke in the quiet room. "They are bowing, Commander." Yuna nodded, placing a hand on the cool metal wall of her ship. "I know," she whispered back. "Thank you." The minute ended. Slowly, softly, lights began to reappear on the coalition ships. Sensors came back online with gentle blooms of data. The silence was broken, but the respect it held would remain. The human supercarrier, HFY Vanguard, had emerged from its long night. And the galaxy, in silence, had finally learned how to say hello.